All right, without further ado, let's get to the man who called the game last night for FanDuel, the great Dave Randorf, play-by-play man for the Lightning. Late night, early morning. Dave, thanks so much for getting up with us this morning. Appreciate it.
No problem. It was a late night, wasn't it? You were there. You were there longer than I was.
I did the post-game show with Engblom. Yeah,
I listened to you guys driving home every game, and I was in my driveway. You were still on the air, so yeah, it's a late night for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, it was a short post-game show.
I made that comment. No offense, but I made that comment to my wife. I said, these guys are hustling through this post-game show.
Well, there's a post-game show before us, and they pretty much hit the highlights. And we, and I step aside in that show. Let Brian Engblom do his thing. Because obviously at TV, you guys have a short window for him to analyze things. So I love to give him room to run. And he's, as you well know, the best in the business at doing it. So I learned so much from him. And what I learned last night was, the Lightning just didn't have the pushback that they should have had. I went through all the goals this morning, and there's some freaky stuff in there. They got some bounces. They got some puck luck. But I think we all have to be very honest about this and say the Panthers pushed the Lightning around last night, and they needed a better response, and they didn't get it. What did it look like from your vantage point?
Pretty much the same. I listened to the post-game comments of John Cooper, and he was saying that he liked a lot about this game, and he talked about the tip by Sam Bennett out of midair, the game's opening goal. And that's not one you see every day. And then the Sam Reinhart tip, that is one you see every day. That's what he does. Yeah. A lot of his goals happen like that, and that's a killer in the last minute of a period to give them the lead and momentum going into the second, which they clearly carried through. He also said, we can dissect this all we want, and let's just throw this away. And he's going to say that. This is what a master communicator does. He's part of the leadership group himself, and he's going to position the message that he wants out there with the fan base and the media, and for the players that hear what he has to say publicly. But I don't think there's any question. If you look at this, he says you can dissect it all you want. Well, that's what we're going to do. We will dissect it. And I agree. I think it was a disappointing night for me because I didn't see any of it coming. I didn't see the 6 goals against on home ice coming. I didn't see them laying an egg on home ice. They have not done that in a long time. They've been very good on home ice. I didn't see 3 power play goals against, 1 in 14 seconds after you obviously had suffered a letdown with an unsuccessful coach's challenge. It happens. Yep. And in Coop's words, he would have said in the past, go out and get a kill. Yeah. And it lasted 14 seconds. And who is it of all people that is left wide open in front of the net?
Wide open.
It is Matthew Tkachuk, who, say what you will about this guy, but he's got big ones, and he's got the heart of a lion. Hadn't played it over 2 months. And he steps right in. He only played 11 minutes and 43 seconds. You realize that?
No, I did not.
He barely played, by his standards, and he still has 3 points and was instrumental in kind of, taking a lot of wind out of the sails of the Lightning here on home ice. Home ice is something that John Cooper and the Lightning have publicly stated. It doesn't really matter to us. We just want to get in, do our thing. This year, I think it kind of mattered, because they wanted to have the home ice against either one of the 2 opponents they could have potentially faced in Toronto or Florida, or maybe even Ottawa, but likely those first 2. And you gave it back up last night, and you did it in uncharacteristic fashion. And it was disappointing because, listen, I didn't think they were going to sweep the Panthers at home. I like their chance if they take game 1, because now they've got the Panthers guessing a little bit. That's the other thing, too. The Florida Panthers were not coming into the playoffs on a roll at all.
No.
And they had lost 6 in a row on the road. And I think 2 wins in their last 11 road games. And they immediately reverted back into that form. They knew what time of year it was and got to business, particularly in the second period. Weathered a bit of a storm there after the Lightning did tie it up. And I thought they had some pushback for about 5 minutes. But after that, it was all Panthers. So I guess that's the disappointing thing to me. I don't see the Lightning getting swept here by any stretch of the imagination. So, once we get to game 5, a week and a half from now, this will seem like a month ago. And it won't seem like such a big deal as it does this morning. But it's disappointing. And I'm sure, listen, 6 goals against on 16 shots. I'm sure Vasilevsky is unhappy about this too. I had a good long chat with him one-on-one, I think on Saturday. And he said, I got a clear mind, and I feel good physically, but I feel good up here. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he's going to crumble here. And if anybody is going to bounce back, I think he would
Yes.
be the first guy on my list of guys who could bounce back strongly. But again, that was another thing I didn't see coming, for him to just look a little discombobulated like the rest of the team. But those two things go hand in hand, don't they? When the team in front of him is kind of disorganized and on its heels, he naturally gets on his heels as well.
Dave, the Panthers hadn't scored more than 3 goals. I think I counted like 10 of the last 11 games of the regular season. Their offense had been struggling. Of course, part of that was Tkachuk being out. Tkachuk shows up, like you said, 11 minutes in, and boom, he's the spark. But how can they go forward in this series now, game 2 coming up, to try to combat Tkachuk? He's going to get more ice time, I think, as the series goes on. He's not going to play 11 minutes, I can't imagine, in game 2. But what do they got to do to combat that?
Well, it's not just about Tkachuk. With all due respect, you're exactly right. Listen, the guy had 9 points against the Lightning in 5 games last year, and he has been a very productive playoff performer for them the last 2 trips to the Stanley Cup Final. He's been front and center, so he is a concern. But you know what, boys? If you look at this team, they've got 3 lines that can generate 3 legit lines. This third line they've got is, I don't think Lightning fans really recognize the weapon they've got in their third line, with a young but already experienced and crafty Anton Lundell at center. You've got Eetu Luostarinen, a guy who's played every game for the last 2 or 3 seasons, kind of an under the radar, hard to play against, physical Finn who works his tail off, and he's the guy that basically created that rebound on the Schmidt goal, which ended up being the game winner. Yeah. And then you got Brad Marchand on that line now, so and that's their third line.
He's pretty good.
And so then you look at Barkov and Verhaeghe and Reinhart up top, then Tkachuk with Bennett, and this other kid, Samoskevich, who's fit in nicely. But the drivers are Bennett and Tkachuk, both of whom were on the score sheet in a big way last night. This is a 3-line situation the Lightning have to deal with. And the concern right now for the Lightning and Lightning fans is, how healthy is Anthony Cirelli? Did I miss it? Was Cooper asked about Anthony Cirelli last night?
I don't think he was asked, because he never gives any information anyway on that, nor should he.
No, unless he knew, unless he knew something was not going to change, then he would. He said, "No, he's up."
It's a big mystery. It's a big mystery. Nobody. Engblom said he didn't see anything. No. He asked the Panthers guys. They said they didn't see anything. I did hear he came back on the ice in a timeout, tried to give it a go, and then went back down the tunnel. That's all I've heard. Yeah, we were watching pretty closely last night during the telecast, as best you can, and when the game's going on like that. But I think there was a brief moment there. But so bottom line is, if he's missing even for a game, I mean, time's a waste, and you're already down 1-0. Even for one game, that is a massive loss. Yeah. He's your second line center. He's your checking center. He's your Batman to Hagel's Robin, or vice versa, whatever you want to call it. On the PK.
On anything.
PK, yeah. You give up PK, 3 last night, and he wasn't out there.
That's right. PK 5-on-5 doesn't matter. He's crucial to their success, and they've already lost a veteran forward in Oliver Bjorkstrand, which is highly unfortunate. Already been ruled out for this series. And I was looking at the rosters, as I'm preparing for this series here, and I'm thinking, wow, the Panthers still have a lot of extra guys that they can substitute into the lineup here. AJ Greer, they got Gadjevich there, they got other guys that we haven't seen. Aaron Ekblad yet. Yes. Lightning have nobody. The Lightning don't have a lot of depth. If they get injured, it gets thin very fast. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So hopefully we get some good news about Anthony Cirelli, and they can get back to work, because they're clearly capable of shaking this off and bouncing back. This is a team that has been through the ups and downs and the roller coaster that is the Stanley Cup playoffs. But this one stinks. This was disappointing. I think there was a lot of anticipation for both teams, both fan bases, and a lot of eyeballs outside the markets too. I think this is definitely a series where, if you weren't watching your team, you're watching this series. Right. This is the series everybody is talking about, and Lightning laid an egg. Yeah.
I went back and looked at the goals, and because it's one thing to say, okay, look, they got out hit 48-28, which they did. They had 28 or 18 blocks for the Panthers. Michael LaRue, one of our commenters, put this in here. We talked about this on the postgame show. Only 8 for the Lightning. Go back to the first goal. Samoskevich is on. First of all, McDonough whiffs on a hit on Sam Bennett at the blue line, which is rare. And Bennett gets by him. Then Sam Miscavige comes in, and instead of Chernak taking him to the wall and taking him out, he reaches and goes by him. Now he's, time and space. He can just flutter it to the net, and it's a great tap in, no question about it, but it's a lack of physicality on that play. And you talked about the other one with Luosterainen. Lilleberg is behind the net. He's got a chance to get this puck out of the zone. Here comes Luosterainen, and he panics. And he just shoves it to the wall, and then 2 seconds later, Marchand's shooting a laser, and then they're in front of Vasi. Schmidt's got it in the back. And it's just that oppressive physicality that it just seemed that the Panthers were putting on the Lightning, and the Lightning had no response to that. Is that, to me, that is a mindset that can be flipped. And it has to be in game 2. There has to be a more physical tone. I heard Chief say this last night. You just can't allow them to have your blue line so easily. It looked very easy for the Panthers last night, and that's not the crowd was into it. It was, after that power play goal, you're feeling good. The Lightning tilted the ice a little bit after Gensel scores, after Tkachuk took the bad penalty. Like Cooper said, you're kind of right where you want to be. And then that goal happens right before the first period is up, and boom, you're right back on your heels. That to me, and then the first part of that second period, and now it's 4-1 after the challenge, and it's kind of done. So that whole time there and the lack of physicality was what really kind of that was very evident to me. And you can turn that around, though, can you not?
Oh, certainly you can. This team has the core, has the experience to do so. A couple things. First of all, the Lightning have statistically all season long, they have not been anywhere near amongst the league leaders in hits per game or blocks per game. Right. They are quality over quantity. Let's put it that way. They have been a very good defensive team for pretty much the entire regular season. And we know they're the highest scoring team in the league. You can be effective without running around and laying out 50 hits. At this time of year, hits especially are magnified. Oh, geez, there was a combined 700 hits in the game. This team had 80 hits. And yeah, that's great. And it's fun to watch, and it's intense and all that kind of stuff. But it can take you away from really your structure, what you really want to accomplish, which is protecting the middle, keeping things to the outside, not getting beat one-on-one, and giving up any of those momentum type change shifting plays. So that's the first thing. They need to get back to that and settle it down and just get back to their game. Secondly, you talk about the mindset. Let's see. You're talking about a team that didn't panic, stayed the course, flipped the script, stuck it right up, right down there, and looked them right in the eyes and said, "How do you like that? Would you like some more?"
Yeah.
Does that sound like a team you used to know when they were at their best?
Yes. Yeah.
That is exactly what the Lightning used to do to teams on the regular. And they are capable of, and now the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah.
The script is flipped. The champs, I'm sorry, Lightning fans, live in South Florida right now.
That's right.
And they have that mindset. They have that instinct, and they've just added more guys like Nico Sturm, a cup winner, who won his cup in Amalie Arena, by the way. Brad Marchand, a cup winner, a gamer, a grinder, a game breaker. They just added more guys to adopt that mindset. And it was on full display last night. Again, Florida was not coming in on a roll. They had all kinds of question marks. They had guys in and out of their lineup, and Matthew Tkachuk and Aaron Ekblad's not even playing yet. And how would this look? Well, it looked like they picked up where they left off in the Stanley Cup final. That's how it looked. Yeah. And that is the mindset you're talking about that they had, and the Lightning need to match it. Can they? Of course they can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm not saying this is over by any stretch of the imagination, but we're talking facts here tonight, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking reality, where we are dissecting it as much as the coach says you can dissect it all you want. Well, that's how I saw it last night. And I expect and would be very surprised if they came back a little tentative on Thursday night against the Panthers, because I think they're all going to. Part of it is structure. Part of it is X and O's. The other part of it is a little heart and a gut check.
That's right.
To get back to what you can do. And I think a combination of those two things, we're going to see a different team from the goal out.
Yeah, McDonough said that last night, right? He said, "We got another gear. We got to get to it." So, and it's, I'm not throwing in the towel at all. I thought Bobrovsky was really good last night. If you looked at all the goals, I'm not going to say Vasi was at his best last night, but there was a couple. The second Tkachuk goal goes off Vasi's skate. He's just throwing it at the net on a power play situation right there. So, I mean, the score looks bad. It felt bad. But I think Cooper is right. They're not that far off. They just have to come back, and if they can get, they can get out front a little bit. I think that'll. And to your point, I'm not saying you just run around and hit everybody. It's when you hit them, where you hit them, and how you hit them. Right? Mm-hmm. Just make it known that you're not going to be intimidated, because I think the fan. I know this. It's in our comments. It's all over Twitter. The fans feel like the Lightning just are a little intimidated by this Panthers team. I hate to use that word. And Brian mentioned this last night. There's a lot of chirping going on for Kucherov. He has not scored a goal in 11 playoff games. And,
you know what? Can I say something about that? I don't think Kuch is intimidated by any stretch. But are they in his kitchen? No doubt about it.
Yes.
No question about it. They were in his kitchen last night, and he did have the assist in the power play goal. He had 2 shots on net. I can barely remember them. And this is a guy who he had 7 assists last year in the series, but no goals. They were all over him. They took him away, and they ran him early last night with Tkachuk taking that penalty, and ultimately it cost them. That's what we thought the game would flip, but it didn't. Right. It didn't. And they're in his kitchen, and it's I think that bugs not only Kucherov, but I think it bugs the rest of the players on the Lightning bench, and it throws them off as well. And it gets them distracted. Like, we're not going to let this happen to our guy. And he's our leader. He's carried us here in large part for years now. And that kind of takes away a little bit of your focus, and they know it. And trust me, if the Lightning come out and they have a good start, but they can't play with a lead, and I'm talking about play with a lead, not hang on to a lead or play tied. If the Panthers can sense that vulnerability, they have proven to not only the Lightning, but many other teams in this last 2-year run, they can capitalize on that. They can smell the blood in the water, if you want to use that sports analogy. They sense it, they smell it, and they go for it. And they land not one knockout punch, but 1 and maybe 2 more after that, and really get you.
Well, Dave, this is game 2. It's going to be huge Thursday night. You'll be calling it for FanDuel, 6:30. We are a little older team, so maybe it was a little past our bedtime last night.
That's my bedtime, that's for sure. It was so weird. It was so weird because not only does the game series start way late, like I was ready for that game for 3 days, and I got to the rink, my regular, time before a game, and I'm sitting there up, and I'm just like losing my mind waiting for the game to start
all day.
I can only imagine what the players were like at that point, but. Listen, keep your eye on the start time, fans out there, because they're all over the map for the first 4 games here. But 6:30 on Thursday, 1 o'clock on Saturday, and then 7 o'clock for game 4.
I'm an hour ahead of you guys in Texas and in Dallas, and it was late for me. I was like,
well, we're gonna hopefully the Lightning show up on time on Thursday, and I think they will.
They will.
Not to. Yeah,
this is a good team that they've been a good team now, JP, for 2.5 months.
Absolutely.
Solid. So since the end of January, they've had the 4th best record in the league, and their goals against have hovered right around 2. They've been excellent. That's why, again, I'm repeating myself. That's why it was a surprise. I think they can quickly revert back to the form that we've seen for 2.5 months.
Davey, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. It was a really busy time for you. So thanks for taking the time with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, boys.
All right.